Welcome to the Being Resilient podcast with your host, Stephanie Olson. Hello, we are getting ready to interview Joe Templin, and here is his bio. Reformed physicist, financial planner, startup founder, and autodidactic polymath. Best described as a Swiss Army knife, Joe Templin has invested the past 2.5+ decades to helping others reach their financial potential as a planner, trainer, mentor, and creator. In his free time, Joe enjoys running Ragnar's 200-ish mile team relay races, ultra marathons, and is a champion level martial artist. He lives in Ballston Spa, New York, with his hooligan boys, Danny, Liam, and Colin. They are huge Yankee fans. Let's meet Joe Templin. Hello, and welcome to the Being Resilient podcast. I am Stephanie Olson, and I am here with Joe Templin, and I am so excited. I was going to say Templeton because he was giving me crap right before, but it's Joe Templin, and I am really excited to talk to you, Joe. Welcome to the podcast.
Stephanie, thank you. And see, I was using my Jedi mind tricks on you.
Okay, well, it would be really easy to do today because my mind is very pliable today. So just be careful, be sensitive with me.
I will, and I won't take advantage of it.
Thank you.
Be gentle with me too, please.
Okay. Well, Joe, I'm excited to hear a little bit about your story. You are an author. You've got all of this stuff going on. So share with us your story. Where does that start? I was conceived, wherever you want to begin.
So is this where I go to like my Dr. Evil? I was born in a small fishing village.
Yes, very good. I like that. Yes.
So, I've got actually a sort of boring story to begin with in a lot of ways. I mean, I had two wonderful parents. My dad, John, was the first person in his family to go to college, ROTC scholarship. And then went on, did his time in the military, went into consulting, and actually he just retired last year after 50 plus years consulting.
Oh my gosh.
So I had that. My mom was a farm kid, youngest of 7 kids. She actually probably should have never been born. She was like, 1.5 pounds when she was born in 1940. She broke her back, so they were told they'd never have kids. They ended up having 6 of us. By the way, did I mention my mom was a nun before that too? So nun goes and has 6 kids.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Wow.
I got the flat spot on the back of my head from it too.
A nun and then 6 kids. That is a change. That's a change.
Yep.
Wow.
And so like Maria from the Von Trapp story, Sound of Music. Yeah, that's sort of like my mom,
That's fabulous.
Because Mother Superior was like, no, you're going to go marry God.
You need to not be a nun. Yeah.
Okay. So you need to go do other things. So my mom was a biology professor, so I had these 2 great influences. And that's where a lot of my fundamentals that you'll see come on out are reflected from. I was a highly asthmatic kid, and back in the 70s and 80s, we didn't have the puffers and all the medicines that we do now. So when you were sick, really sick, you had to go to the hospital and you were in an oxygen tent very
long.
Or you had to stay home. So like one year I missed over 50% of the school year, and they were going to fail me until the national tests came back and I got a perfect score, and they're like, oh, I guess we
oh my goodness, wow.
But that also explains why my writing looks like a 5-year-old's. But I told the teacher, I don't need to worry about writing. Eventually, we're going to be able to talk, and the computers will write for us. And I got sent to the principal for that one.
You were not wrong.
Yeah, and my mom went on in, and she's like, no, he's probably right. Why are you giving my son crap for this? So having good influences, people who modeled standing up against tough situations or whatever, is fundamental to me. Yeah. So, that's my background. And when I was 10 years old, I actually died from my asthma. Wow. So that's one of the reasons why I'm so driven and passionate about everything that I do, because when you get a second chance, guess what? You take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
Or you should.
Yeah. Right. Wow. So, We have a lot in common actually, because when I was very little, and early on in my childhood, I had bronchitis and I was
Mhm,
hospitalized like twice a year for bronchitis, and same thing. I did not die, but I remember being in those, those contained
mhm.
oxygen things, and it's just a different world.
Yeah,
It's
it can be very scary. And
yeah.
so when that happened to me when I was young, it, forced me to confront mortality at an early age when kids shouldn't, but also made me realize other things. And so, like, my cousins on my mom's side, there's like 40 of them because it's a big Irish Catholic farm family. My one aunt had 11 kids. So
Unbelievable. My
so I
goodness.
had all these,
Whew.
older cousins to beat on me and try and make me stronger over time. But you see over my shoulder here, I got my good old, Theodore Roosevelt.
Ah,
And
wow.
Teddy Roosevelt is famous for being so dynamic, so athletic, so gregarious and bigger than life. He was an incredibly asthmatic kid. He was a bookworm. And when he was like 10 or 12 years old, his father's like, Theodore, because they always call him Theodore, never Teddy, you have the brain, but you don't have the body.
Wow.
You need to develop that. And his doctor prescribed cigars and whiskey. This shows you about back in the day.
We've come a ways
A little
medically.
bit since then. But he also made the commitment. And
Yeah.
so he was a lifelong learner. I mean, he literally died with a book under his pillow, which is one
Wow.
of the things that people don't realize how intellectual he was. But he made himself because of some of those early traumas around that.
Wow. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so when we talk about overcoming trauma and resilience, he's one of the best examples that there is
That's
of
great.
you can come from good circumstances, wealthy family and all that, lose everything because he lost his parents early and his first wife died like right afterwards. And that's when he went out to Montana and became a cowboy. Come on back and apply that. And he, through his resilience, his ability to overcome the obstacles, his ability to play the hand that he was always dealt, is one of the reasons why he's on Mount Rushmore.
I love that. I love that. So normally I save this for the end, but you're just leading right into it. Tell me what resilience then means to you.
I've been thinking about this, and there's really two very closely related concepts. There's strength, so emotional or mental strength, and there's resilience. So strength is like power. Okay, it's the ability to lift large weights, to take a beating, to just be able to suck it up if need be.
Right.
Resilience is flexibility. It's
Mm-hmm.
the ability to overcome, adapt, to
Yep.
reflect some of the Marine Corps ideals, to be able to deflect it, to not break under the situations, to come back better, to learn and grow and evolve.
Yeah. I
So
love that.
resilience is more of a fluid form of strength, and both are needed to ultimately be successful because guess what? Life sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
It's
all
not
going to
always
die.
easy.
All right. To go with the Stoic phrase, memento
Right.
mori. Right.
Right. Wow.
It is the ultimate sexually transmitted disease. It's from unprotected sex and is always fatal.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're going
Yeah.
to have to do so. Either you retreat from reality and pretend that you're a pretty princess,
Mm-hmm.
or you have to find a way to be able to deal with it. And the best way to deal with it is to ultimately be flexible, which can be a
Absolutely.
problem with some people. We'll probably talk about this in a bit, but I have non-neuronormal children. I have an Asperger's son with a couple other issues, and my youngest son is autistic and ADHD.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one of the things about kids with autism is they construct their own rules.
Mm,
And this is the path that things are going to go to. And
right.
anything that violates that creates a lot of disruption for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, which is definitely challenging for a parent, and especially one who, has a system and a plan in place So, okay, so you're talking about strength, you're talking about endurance. You really have had both of those things in your journey. You know, with your martial arts and with all of this. So tell me more. So you did you grow out of the asthma, or did you did
I grew out of most of it. Like when I was a kid, they did these allergy tests where they
yeah.
write on you and prick you. And so like I literally looked like the tattooed man
Yeah.
when they tested it, and literally everything exploded. So I was allergic to almost
Uh,
the entire world.
oh, that's sad.
So, not supposed to have any pets, can't eat certain foods
Yeah.
and all that. But one of the things that we learn from a psychological point of view is if you're exposed to something, you can overcome fear of it. It's basically building up a tolerance to it, as David
Mm-hmm.
Goggins would talk
Mm-hmm.
about. So it's called exposure therapy.
Yeah.
So from a physical point of view, you can have that. I always go back to the Dread Pirate Robert saying, I've built up a tolerance to iocane powder in The Princess Bride. But it's the same sort of thing
Great
where
movie, by the way.
one of the
Yeah.
greatest movies of
Yeah.
all time.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So if I happen to drop a couple of lines from that throughout here,
Then I will just
you'll,
admire you. So,
okay, because I do have this pirate fascination that comes on out at times. Hey,
that
my
is
middle initials are R.
okay. I actually laughed at that. You got me there. Good job. So yeah, I think
See
that
what I did?
yeah, I do see what you did. Stop it. Okay. So now when you talk that, because that's what I have, we have OCD in our family, and so
Mhm.
that is exactly what it is. It's exposure therapy. And and that is one of the scariest things, I think, when you're trying to overcome something. It's not about not it's something makes me afraid, so I'm never going to do it, or I'm never going to touch it. It's actually about doing it and being exposed to it so
Mhm.
that it becomes something that doesn't
Doesn't
affect.
trigger them in some ways.
Exactly,
And one of the
exactly.
things is that there's a very similar mental exercise that elite athletes use, and we can use with our kids who have some of these issues, is that we can play the what if game.
Yeah.
And what if this happens? Well, we can do this. And so it's almost like going through the old choose your own adventure books where we
Right.
can explore these things so it's not a surprise. They've been made aware, hey, they might not have the restaurant open. So if that happens, let's have a plan B.
Right.
Okay?
And
And this actually helps teach them strategic thinking for a moment.
yes.
If they don't have your favorite dish, what's your second choice, potentially, Colin, if they don't have nachos?
Exactly.
Okay,
Oh,
let's
you just
visualize what's
picked
going
my
to happen.
favorite dish right there. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So see,
See,
you're my friend now.
yes, I
Okay,
like
you'll be
that.
Colin's best friend.
But
But
that's the thing, I think you have to. And if they don't have nachos, is that what's the worst thing that can happen?
well,
You know,
to an 8-year-old with autism, it could literally be the worst thing
right,
in the world.
right,
So what we need to do is we need to de-escalate that before he actually encounters it.
right, right.
And so this is what good strategic leaders do in businesses all the time, the what ifs, and we explore these different things, but it's also the pre-playing of events in the head is what makes for great martial artists, great athletes of all forms. You know what? I guarantee you that Michael Jordan saw himself shooting those game-winning shots millions of times.
Right.
Every little kid that's ever played baseball has pictured themselves hitting a home run in the World Series.
Right.
Okay, golfers visualize sinking the putt, the mental game. So,
Right.
for example, one of the first major champions, actually the first major tournament that I won, I trained really hard every single morning, every single night. I did all that for 6 months and, changed my diet so that I could be more effective and all that. But I went to bed every single night and woke up every single morning visualizing how I was going to win that tournament with a particular technique, an instant left hook kick to the head. And I went to sleep thinking about it. And I woke up thinking about it because that's when your body's generating theta waves. So you can program your brain the best at that point. I won that tournament 250, 300 times in my head.
Wow.
And so when it came to the last moments of the tournament, guess what? It played out exactly how I had trained my mind, my body, and my spirit for it. I had overcome a major injury less than a year in advance, where I had been, somebody that I was training with slipped and kicked the side of my knee with a full-on side kick. So my knee, your knee was supposed to bend like this. My knee bent like that.
Oh,
And it took 5 guys to hold me down and put it back in place. And then I had to drive home, a half hour later.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so that's resilience, because I was told I would never fight again.
Yeah.
And 11 months and 28 days or whatever later, I ended up winning this tournament.
That's amazing. So let's go back and tell me how you got into martial arts. How did you how did you go from that asthmatic kiddo doing some serious training and being such a strong athlete?
So part of it is that my parents gifted me with the Irish thick head. So one, it saved my life in terms of a car accident where I bent the frame of the car with my skull.
Oh my gosh.
But two, so if anybody says anything, I say, yeah, I'm brain damaged. That's my excuse for things at this point.
Oh my goodness.
I can laugh at myself pretty well, as you can see, because look at this face. It's meant to be laughed at. Okay? So, and no, this is not dark.
Let me just say, for those listeners who can't see him but only hear him, he looks amazing. Come on, you're
the suit. It's got to be the suit.
Okay.
Okay. So where was I with this? Oh, so I was gifted, this thick Irish head, but also, this work ethic. Farm kid. You have to do it. Multiple younger brothers and sisters. So my mom had to just suck it up and go and take care of things.
Yeah.
And so I learned that. In fact, suck it up was one of my mom's favorite phrases. So my kids, when they were little, heard this from their grandmother and have created some mental toughness around that, which I had and then was reinforced in a lot of ways. But when I was in 5th grade, there were some kids on the bus who were making fun of my kid sisters and pushing them around, and they were little and all. They're still little. They don't even crack 5 foot, even though they say they do. They need heels to crack. So sorry, Dan and Danielle, when you listen to this. So they, were getting harassed. So my parents enrolled them in Taekwondo at the local YMCA. And they started training, and I watched. I'm like, hey, this is pretty cool. Can I do it too? So about 2 months later, I started. It was actually 1983 this week when I started.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I remember that because I trained for a while, and then Karate Kid came out, and all of a sudden there was like 500 kids there. And within a month, all but 2 were gone because they didn't realize that it took work.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
Wow.
So, I started with that, and, I was barely able to do the exercises, but one of the things we were doing was push-ups and all these. And I did, okay, I can do this. And this is just practicing, same way that is with an instrument, same way that is with doing math problems or language. This just takes practice.
Right.
And so I was able to do a little bit more, and a little bit more. And I looked at ways to be able to multitask. So my mom remembers that I'd be watching TV, and I'd be sitting there in a horse stance. Or I bought a cheap stretch machine and stretch myself out. I'd be sitting there doing my Latin homework while stretched out. Right. So I learned to multitask, things like that. And just over time, you do more and more with it. And I had very good instructors over time. Master Daniel Grant, I actually quote him in the book. It's like my second father. And so I had these good influences around me that helped push me. And one of the things about becoming really resilient is that you need to go beyond your limits when you don't have to have greater limits overall. Okay, so for example,
say that one more time, because that's pretty profound right there.
What did I say? I made
you
stuff
have
up.
To
so you have to go beyond your limits when you don't have to, so that when you have to go beyond your limits, you can.
That is awesome.
So for example,
I love that.
I went, there was a couple of months ago, it was in the summer, rainstorms coming on, and I'm like, okay, I have to go run 5 miles as part of my training. Rain's coming in, this is gonna suck. Okay, I hate running in the rain, the cold squishiness and nastiness and all that. You know what? I could not do it, but I'm gonna go do it because it's gonna suck. And I did the 5 miles, and I came on in, pulled off the squishy socks and all that, took a hot shower to warm up, and it felt great. That shower felt better than any shower I'd taken in a long time, because I had chosen the negative thing. And because I'm like, I could take the easy route, or I can take the right path. I took the right path, the harder path at that point. Then that gives me additional resiliency and strength that I can draw from down the road. So when I did my ultra marathon, and it was 9 o'clock at night, I'm completely broken physically, bonking, out of energy. And one of my friends reached out to me, and she actually needed the last bits of my emotional strength. So I didn't even have it for me. And I still was, helping her and finishing my ultra marathon beyond anything that I'd done. I could do that because I had chosen to repeatedly push beyond the limits. I didn't have to, which ultimately they don't necessarily give you more resilience and strength, but they make you aware of what you have.
That is so good. Okay, so you started martial arts, you were training, you were obviously achieving, you were getting stronger. And that I gotta interrupt this. Have you seen Cobra Kai?
I have seen some clips of it. I have not actually watched it. I don't watch very much television because I've got other things going on. But from what I've heard, this looks awesome.
Highly recommend. If you are a Karate Kid fan, I'll be the original. I highly recommend it, because what you were just describing actually is a scene in Karate Kid. So I'm just in Cobra Kai. So there you go. Just the push-ups.
Now I gotta watch it.
And getting better.
Good sales job.
Yeah, there you are. Okay, so off Cobra Kai and back onto Joe. So tell me
I'm
more.
ADHD, if you haven't noticed. So shiny objects, sure.
But
it's not, they're like side quests. We go on off, we can learn some new things, new experiences, all that, but we try and come back to the main thing we're focused on.
Absolutely. I like that. And today we're focused on you. So, all right. Yeah.
Gonna make me blush.
So tell me, what came next then?
Came next. So I started college at 13 because my mom and dad said 12 was too young.
You started college at 13.
Yeah.
How does one
I used to be wicked smart. So Johns Hopkins University has this awesome program called the Center for Advancement of Academically Talented Youth. And I was part of their pilot program that they had at Skidmore College. So they had initial things, and then they started trying stuff up here. And so my older brother, Jay, my Irish twin, and I, and a couple other guys were part of a group that started this. And one of the guys who started it is still one of my best friends to this day, Dr. Adrian Scott. So he and I ended up doing that through Hopkins. Then we both went to RPI, I for physics, and he went for mathematics. And he went and, helped create crypto and Facebook and all this other crazy stuff that he's done all the time. He lives in the jungles of Panama. He's an actor. He's someone you should talk to at some point.
That is crazy.
My parents, I did that, but I also was attending regular school in a lot of capacities in an attempt to normalize me, which obviously failed. And so that's how I kept playing cello, doing volleyball, eventually played junior Olympic volleyball, kept with Taekwondo, did all these things, and then eventually ended up studying applied physics at RPI and moving on from that. So that's like the next couple of steps is, I started Taekwondo, learned a lot of discipline from that we took the raw brain power, the raw talent, and showed me how to hone it and apply it better, which then, by taking college classes and all this at, the edge of my capability limits, again, stretched me.
Wow.
And then return, stretch, return, stretch, return. So pushing the envelope and coming back and doing it voluntarily. So that way, eventually, when I ended up going to RPI, I was able to pick up multiple degrees, multiple minors, do Taekwondo, win start winning championships, student
Wow.
senate, fraternity, optical society, all these different things, because I had built the capacity to stretch myself at that point.
Yeah.
So, and being in college, bad things happen to people. You have bad breakups, potential injuries. You don't get the grade that you thought.
Right.
So, that my godfather died a week before I finished my physics degree.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, and that's who I was named
Yeah.
after. And he was an engineer. So,
Right.
but
Wow.
those sort of things are going to happen.
Yes.
I was able to get through it because earlier on I had chosen a lot of the easier path or the harder path. So one of the things that we see a lot these days is we've got these snowplow parents who just clear the way for kids and make it really easy. And here's the thing, life is going to be easy and hard.
Right.
That's just the way it is. So if it's easy early for you, it's going to be very hard down the road. If it's harder for you earlier, it's going to be easier later. So when you have the chance to choose to do hard things by choice, as opposed to chance,
right,
doing so is going to give you the strength and resilience for when you don't have the choice, when mom is diagnosed with cancer, when dad has a heart attack, when your kid has a mental breakdown, when your entire company folds. Those are things beyond your control. But if you've built up the capacity to deal with situations on a smaller basis, dealing with something huge like that is not as big of a step. So it should not break you.
That's so good because, I talk to parents quite a bit. And one of the things I say is that we have an obligation as parents to not be friends with our parents, or not be friends with our parents. You can when you're an adult, but not be friends with your kids, but to really teach them how to be strong, independent, healthy adults.
Yes.
And that's what our job
I'm your
is.
father, not your friend. I tell my kids all the time.
Yes, I've said the same thing. And my oldest daughter always said, when can I be your friend? And I said, when you are paying your own way, then, then you're good. And she is almost there. She's very close. But yeah, and so what are your thoughts? This is a little off topic, but I'm just kind of curious based on what you said. Yes, exactly. You hear about all of the, I'm going to give you a participation medal. I'm going to give you a medal for you get a medal just for being here. What are your thoughts on those things and what we're maybe doing with our children right now?
That, when my son was 8 years old and said that, only winners should get trophies, I knew that he was going to be on the right path overall.
Wow.
So yeah, I've got my participation medals for Ragnar's and stuff like that, but that's 2 days of hell, 200 miles.
Right.
I've got, but like those medals for martial arts.
Yeah.
That means I was in the top 3. Okay.
Right.
Because you need to learn to lose so that you can learn from losing and improve. And inevitably you're going to lose at some point. So being the former gifted kid, we grew up and our school system is teaching people you have to be perfect. As the gifted kid, because you have more intelligence naturally, the expectations are higher. So you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be Doogie Howser, all this stuff. And until you learn how to fail and learn from failing and develop that resilience, you're going to be set up to fail overall.
Oh, that is so good. Yes.
Harvard actually lets in people who they know academically are not the top, but typically they're letting in athletes and people who have come from hard situations, people who are resilient. So they're going to finish near the bottom of their class at Harvard, but they're still a Harvard graduate. And it won't break their psyche because they're not built around perfection. They understand you don't win every single game. Right. You need to finish and all the way. And so participation trophies have told kids, okay, you're going to get rewarded just for being here. Yeah. And that sends a bad message. Yeah, you can get a certificate that says you participated in this, but there needs to be a reinforcement of winning carries rewards and losing sucks, but it's not the end of the world. And so get used to it, get better for the next time.
Yeah. And you can actually, we don't really learn and grow in the height of the greatness. We learn and grow in the trials and getting over those humps. And
Getting over the humps,
yes,
right?
yes,
You get almost there and you find somebody that's better and you look at them and say, why are they better than me? What
uh,
can I learn? What do I need to change to improve? Do I need to
yes,
cut some things out, like, watching television all the time?
yeah,
Or do I need to add other things in? Like, do I need to take more protein so that I can put on some muscle mass? Or do I need to change my training? Do I need to hire a coach? Do I need to spend more time studying? Losing is supposed to be a learning experience.
yes, it is. My son is 15. He plays soccer, and he constantly says, I want to play with people better than me. I need to
Mhm.
play with people better than me. And that, I just love that attitude, because that's how you grow. That's how you learn.
Right. And there's an old adage that you become the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time around.
Mm,
And so the people that I try to, like, the people that I interact with the most all have multiple advanced degrees. Several of them have PhDs or 2 law degrees or
yeah.
things like that. They are like world-class individuals, 5th degrees, black belts, special forces,
Mhm.
things like this. So it's like being around them forces me to be better, to up my game.
Right, right.
And so the choice is, do you want to do that, or do you want to be the big fish in the little pond? And that is very limiting. And so what we're doing actually is everybody's in their own little glass bowl. It's all like the betas, the fighting fish. We're all in their own unique thing, where they are not able to learn to interact with others, where they can learn to grow, where they can expand to their full size. Because as the old saying goes, a shark in a small tank will grow to 8 inches. In the ocean, will grow
Right,
to 8 feet.
right.
So, you know what? I got scars on my body and my face, and on my soul. And those are remembrances, but they're also lessons that I had to learn that make me better. So, do you want to have a perfect, pretty face and body and all that? Or do you want to achieve excellence? So, do you want to be all surface, or do you want to be substance?
Right. That is so good. And I think one of the things, I work with a lot of kiddos who have experienced trauma and who have gone through a lot of things where they don't have the opportunities. They don't have the family that supports them, so they have to start with overcoming just that, right? They have to
Mm,
start at the very basic. And so, you know, it doesn't necessarily even have to be about degrees, but it could be about, I am going to accomplish this goal and I'm going to achieve it, and then I'm going to I just talked to a guy who his son, I guess he did just terrible in school. His room was always a mess. He was like, this kid is not going to make it. I'm nervous. This kid is in trouble. And he graduated high school and he was like, okay, now I'm going to make something of himself. And he wound up, he owns several businesses. He just bought, and just probably with the last 5 years or so, bought a construction, oh no, it was during COVID, bought a construction company. And now it's like millions of dollars that this
right.
is, I mean,
And this kid struggled, so he
yes,
understands and builds.
yes,
So that's one of the things that I talk about. People who are unnaturally gifted, like
right.
the example I sometimes used was Ted Williams was one of the greatest hitters of all time. Okay, and he's a Red Sox player. I'm a Yankee fan, so the fact that I even mentioned him, shows how great he truly was. But he was ungodly gifted, so he couldn't understand mortals. When he eventually
Mhm.
became the manager, he was a horrible manager because he didn't realize that
Sure.
people struggled. And we
Yep.
see this in corporations all the time. The person who is the incredible saleswoman who knocks the cover off the ball is now told, okay, go teach others to do that, and they can't because they don't understand the struggles of that.
Right. Wow.
So, like with my own kids, they, I've got 3 boys. They're all completely different, but they're all mine in lots of ways. Some of them for good, some of them not so good, but
You
that's the
gotta
way it
hone
is.
it for evil or good, right?
Exactly.
That's right.
As my mom said, I wished upon you like you got 3 just like yourself. I used to apologize to her all the time. I'm sorry, Mom. And she's like, which one and what they do? So, and she'd get a call like that literally every other day.
Yep.
Sometimes twice a day, which, were some of the more interesting weeks. So one of the things that I learned from them, because, I was expected to have perfect grades and all this, kids learn differently, especially those who have ADHD or OCD or the various other things that some of my kids have. And so they know I don't care about the grade.
Right.
I care about effort and attitude. And they know. I'll ask them, how was your effort? And I didn't do everything I should have. Okay, I'm going to say, yes. All right, discussion over.
Yeah.
And so they self-regulate around that. Even my youngest, who has the most severe autism, he's learning and understanding this, and he's learning to process and self-evaluate and improve. So effort and attitude. If you have good effort and good attitude, we can teach you skills.
That's
we
right.
Can, you can, work on the body. You can work on the mind. You can, with enough effort, anything's possible. David Goggins showed that. And this was a guy who couldn't read and ended up, sitting there and literally going through Navy dive tables and stuff like that dozens and dozens of times, and he ended up doing what he needs to do, and successful author, ultra runner, all these other things, because he was able to apply the work in the way that made sense to him. Effort and attitude. And if you are strong in both of those, you will have success of some level. And when you find the passion that really gets you going, you're going to blow the doors off.
Absolutely. It's the people who are not coachable, who are not teachable. That is where you fail ultimately.
Yeah, I got one of those.
Yes. So speaking of them, and you lovingly refer to them as your hooligans.
My hooligans.
Yes, absolutely. So you so tell me about, because you went from martial arts to, I know that you were close to being an Olympian. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So I had actually beaten some of the guys who ended up going on into the Olympics and everything. I was pretty good. And I was supposed to have my shot, and then I got married, and when we went on our honeymoon, came on back. My wife ended up having to go to Australia for work for the company that she worked with. So she's gone for 2.5 weeks right after our wedding. And I was sitting there studying one night and started feeling some weird pains and all that. I'm like, oh, not a big deal, too much of the suck it up nature that had been embedded in me, it looks like. And so just ignored it for like 5-6 hours. It's like, oh, okay, you know what? I gotta go get this checked out. Drove myself to the hospital, and the pain's excruciating. I probably should have gone 4 hours earlier. Checked myself on in, and they're like, yeah, well, then they go to roll me into surgery like almost immediately, knock me out. And when I woke up the next morning, turns out that I had an emergency orchiotomy. And at that point, I had to make a choice. Do I want to fight and potentially never have kids, or do I choose through becoming a parent?
Wow.
So
wow.
I chose to become a parent, and I remind my kids of that sometimes. I gave up gold for you.
You will become my gold. Yes.
That's how much I love you.
That's right.
Even though I want to strangle you right now.
But I think being able to make that choice, that's resilience in and of itself, right? You make a choice between what ultimately, because we have to do that all the time. We always, you make a choice and you have to sacrifice something, whether, if I cut my hair, I sacrifice putting my hair in a ponytail. That's a simple choice, right? But those are the things we have to make choices and sacrifice.
Well, the root of decide, it comes from the Latin, to cut off. So if I decide to do this, I cut off all these, infinite possibilities over here that could be existing in an alternate universe, which is discussion for another time. But, you cut off branches of that tree and go down a particular path because you have cut these off, literally.
Right.
And so the question is, do you make the decision that feels good in the moment, or is better for you long range? Do you make the choice that increases your happiness the most, or do you make the choice that increases the global happiness the most? Having kids was important for global happiness. Again, even though I want to strangle them at times.
Well, that's neither here nor there, right?
That's life. Anybody who's had a kid or a kid brother or sister or nephews or nieces is probably laughing at this because they're like, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So let's talk about your kids because I think as adults and future parents and we have this expectation of what our family is going to look like, and it usually is never around anything negative at all. And
everything's perfect, and there's unicorns and cupcakes and rainbows and all
unicorns. That's right, exactly. So talk to me about when your kiddos were growing up, I guess one at a time, obviously, and when you realized it wasn't necessarily going to be rainbows and unicorns.
So actually, before my kids were born, we were trying to get pregnant, and it was over a year and a half, and we couldn't. And so we ended up having to go and have fertility treatments and all that. Started doing that. We got pregnant, and everything's going well. 13 weeks in, my wife started having some issues, and we rushed to the hospital, and we lost the baby.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And then that happened again, 13 to 15 weeks. Then we lost 2 more earlier in the process, 7, 8 weeks. But so literally we're getting to the point where we're like, we're never going to have kids. Never having kids. And then we got pregnant, and that led to my oldest, Danny. And actually, when she was giving birth, she told me, "You did this to me, I hate you." So that story actually is true. She literally told me that.
That is a given. Yes.
So and then we're like, okay, it took us so long to have Daniel. Let's not wait so long to try. And we ended up getting pregnant with Liam, as soon as we decided to start trying.
Wow.
When it was time for him to be born, called my parents because she was like going into labor really quick. They came on down, so I left my kid alone for 20 minutes asleep because I had to get her to the hospital because I literally drove her in, pulled into the circle. They grabbed her out of the car, rushed her in.
Wow.
I go park the car, I come on in, she's already up in the stirrups and everything. Liam's born with the cord wrapped around his neck and blue.
Oh, wow.
And just came out like this. So, Daniel came out looking perfect and everything. And they're like, oh, look at that perfect chin. He's going to be a politician. I'm like, bite your tongue. And now he wants to be a lawyer because he argues everything. But, Liam came on out blue and with cord wrapped around, and, another 5 minutes and we would not have my son.
Wow.
And Liam was born, it turns out, that his spine was twisted.
Oh,
we found this out a little while later. So Liam has an incredibly high pain threshold, and not just because he's a redhead, but because he grew his first 6 months of his life. He was in this position with a twisted spine and these other things. After this was discovered a couple of weeks into his life, he started having daily physical therapy and occupational therapy for the first year of his life.
Wow.
And then dropped down to a couple times a week. So, that's what he went through. So he's tough.
Yeah.
And, he actually, his mode of dealing with things is shut down and not talk about it, which I have to work on to get him to actually discuss his feelings and emote things, as opposed to just being the stoic child.
Right, right.
And then years later, Colin was an oops, came out of nowhere. We thought we were done, and we lost
a
another
happy accident, as Bob
a
Ross
happy
might
accident.
say.
Yes. Completely unplanned, and very different in terms of him than Liam, Captain Independence, as we used to call him. And when he was in kindergarten, Colin was nonverbal for a long, long time.
Wow.
So we had to have speech therapy and some OT and things like that. And we didn't realize, but when he was in kindergarten, he got diagnosed, or right after that, first grade, he got diagnosed with autism and ADHD He had extremely bad eyesight issues, and sensory overload. So it's
Oh, wow.
literally like he
Yeah.
was a drunk toddler
Yeah.
in Vegas,
Yeah.
and it caused all these issues of lashing out. And it's been a long-term process. He's 11 now, but even this week I got a call from his religious ed teacher about issues going on, and we have to change what we're doing there because of some of the control issues around.
Sure.
So that's how the kids have come on up. 2.5 years ago, Daniel tried to commit suicide, my oldest. And so I had to literally check him into a facility, and the screams from him, "Da, please don't, da, please don't." And he still hates me to this day.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
And he refuses to talk to me. In fact, he is asking to drop my name. He wants nothing to do with me or my family. And for the kid that I sacrificed my Olympic dreams for, that literally rips my heart out.
Absolutely.
But I can just hope that he does the right choices and does good things so that he doesn't harm himself long range.
So how do you I mean that is an extremely painful experience. I can't imagine that type of loss, really. How do you overcome that? How do you respond to that and move forward, just even daily?
So sometimes he actually responds to texts that I send him. Whenever I interact with him, I still tell him I love him, because that's one of the things that my mom taught me when I was a teenager. And she one of her sayings was, "I love you, but I don't like you very much right now." So I don't like his actions.
Right.
I don't like some of his choices, and I'm seeing this with some other people who are very close to me in my life. There's an old saying, love the sinner, hate the sin.
Yeah.
He's my kid. I'm gonna love him.
Absolutely.
Love gives us immense power. If somebody believes in something, they will overcome whatever it takes. This is the reason why we hear stories of the mother flipping a car to save her baby. This is the theory that my firefighter friends, when there's a burning building and there's somebody inside, okay, I'm going through the door. If I can't go through the door, I'm going through the window. If I can't go through the window, I'm making a window. I'm getting in there somehow because of this mission. And this is one of the things with special needs parents, where it's my friend Jen, who's got her son who just turned 5 this week, who's got a rare form of pediatric cancer, or my friend Mary Margaret, who had her sons were diabetic. So it's a different special needs. But the thing is, as the parent, you step up and do what you have to. And unfortunately, sometimes we do it over and over and over again, and it wears us down. So one of the things about being resilient is taking some of that me time occasionally, even if it's just locking the door and ignoring the kids for 5 minutes. Sometimes you got to do that. It's getting away to recharge. It's
self-care.
Having your spouse support you. It's having that friend that randomly sends you cupcakes.
Right. Right. Wow.
Cupcakes equal love, by the way. That's a very important thing.
I do not disagree with you right there, but I would say cheesecake more than cupcakes, but that's just me. I'm not judging you.
The best ones are the pumpkin cupcakes with the cheesecake frosting.
Especially right now.
Yes.
So that is that is just very powerful. And I'm a woman of faith and prayer, so I will be praying for you. I believe that there is the other side of that journey for sure, that you will be reconnected with your son, because that is, there's nothing harder. And I think too that sometimes with our kids, it takes them, that prefrontal cortex that is our decision maker is not fully developed.
No.
And
then they got all these weird hormones
all the
ranging
weird,
through them.
yes.
And then they've got, all their friends who are just as messed up as they are, and they're hearing it, and
that's right.
All the social media and TV and all that sort of stuff. So they're getting bombarded with all these different influences and everything.
Yeah.
And they haven't really figured out who they are and what they want to be and all that. So their reticular activation system is still under construction in a lot of ways.
Right.
So they don't know what to filter out, what to listen to, and all this. So they act, sporadic, very erratic in terms of what they're doing. It's very much, if I was talking to physicists, it'd be like, every teenager is like Brownie in motion. It's like of every
absolutely.
single thing they interact with. So being able to understand who you are and make choices around that, that goes back to partially how they're raised, the environment that they're in, the parents, the community, their friends, the people around them. And every single year, you're just basically layering on another layer of bricks into what ultimately becomes the edifice of their personality. So trying to make sure that you're having high quality time and materials around that and doing it thoughtfully. So, I could have given my kids everything in the world when they were young, and I chose not to.
Right.
And my kids are like, so can I do this? Oh, you're going to say no. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, you're going to say no for this reason, this reason, this reason. Probably. I'm like, yes, you understand that. And they're like, well, how's this? So they're understanding not just no, that it's my job as the parent to say that, but the reasons why. And so they're understanding and constructing their own superstructure of their personality to have a belief system that allows them to be able to make better decisions, hopefully. And that is also the basis of their personality, which helps them learn to overcome things. Because if I tell them, go figure it out about something instead of handing them the answer, they develop a skill set that the problems are going to get harder in school, problems are going to get harder in life. But if they know, go figure it out, they have the base processes, the base understanding to start constructing ways to be able to overcome, which leads to resiliency when things happen like a divorce or stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this has been absolutely fascinating. I've just really enjoyed talking to you. Tell us about your book. I want to make sure that the listeners know about your book and how to get it, how to read. Oh, wow.
It looks cool, doesn't it?
Fabulous. Yes. If you can't see that, if you are listening and you can't see it, definitely there will be links below for you. And it looks very cool.
And so the book's also available on the website. It'll be available on Amazon for hard copy and all that, but it'll be available on the website. You can get an ebook there, and there will be a code resilience, so your listeners can actually get a discount.
We will actually get to purchase the book at a discount, and then any of the profits actually, or proceeds, or whatever you call it, actually will go to the Set Me Free Project, my favorite charity, and that does prevention education on human trafficking and social media safety and healthy relationships for youth. And that is awesome. So everyday excellence.
Yep. Yes. Because the process of getting better is an everyday sort of thing. Like every single day when we're young, our body is growing. Okay, it's building stuff. We need to eat every day. We need to exercise every day for our health there. We should study every day. That's how you learn a language or learn to play an instrument or develop a skill set of any form. Mm-hmm. So this book is designed to be a multivitamin for life. And that we've got all these different dimensions that we're looking at: our relationships, our physical health, our mental health, our careers, overall discipline, which is one of those cross-functional skills. So we even talk about resilience in the book at multiple different places.
Right.
So it is designed to be a daily dose where every day I quote somebody, whether it's Mahatma Gandhi or Muhammad Ali or Bruce Lee or various presidents, entertainers, what have you. So there's a quote, then there's about a page of discussion around it, expounding on it in certain areas. But one of the big things is that every day there's an action item.
Oh, okay.
To finish up. So that way, motivation comes from the Latin root to move. Mm-hmm. When you're going through hell, keep on going is one thing that Winston Churchill said. And so keep moving. the way to get through difficult situations is to keep going. You get knocked down, you get up again.
Absolutely. Oh,
So
that's
if you
fantastic.
have those situations, then what you do is you need to be able to respond by being resilient and overcome that situation. So what's your birthday, Stephanie?
My birthday is 1/26, January 26th.
January 26th. So let's
Yes.
go to that day in the book.
Okay. That's a good
January
day.
26th.
Mhm.
Oh, so this is a good quote. This is actually from my kid's Taekwondo teacher, Master
Oh.
Torres. Okay.
Okay.
Focus and finish. And this is how he gets 6-year-olds with ADHD and, you know, all the craziness that goes on in a martial arts dojang with little kids to be able to finish what they need to do, whether it's 10 push-ups, whether it's throwing 5 side kicks, whatever it is, those basic little tasks. And this is very much like what Marcus Aurelius talked about 2,000 years ago in Rome. Complete your tasks. Do the task before you, like a Roman. So it's breaking it down and just doing that little thing. And I give some ideas about how you can do it. Like my phone is saying here, but it's on do not disturb. So that way we can have uninterrupted focus on each other. Sometimes I put it in a different room even.
Yep.
Other times, like if I need to plow through something for work, I will literally take my computer, go into the conference room where there's nothing there to distract me and I don't have my phone and I do what I need to do. If I don't need the internet, I'll actually turn off the internet. So literally all I can do is sit there and write and focus so I can focus and finish. And so the action item for that day is one thing that I actually did when writing this book along. Action item, adopt the Pomodoro method. Set a timer for 25 minutes on your phone and just plow away on whatever you need to. Then take a break and repeat.
I love that. I think that's fantastic. Of course, my birthday has good advice on it. I love that. No,
hopefully every day has some good advice.
Yeah, I'm sure, but birthday is probably the best. I'm just going to say. So no, I think that's amazing. And that sounds like a book that can not only will be an interesting read, but actually make a difference in how we go through our everyday life, how we do things that make us more productive. And I'm assuming too,
happier, more resilient, healthier. And it's one of those things where everyone says, oh, I don't have time to sit down and read a whole book like this one, or you know, the other things. This is literally 2 to 3 minutes per day.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
And if people don't want to like have the full book up front, we've got a subscription service where they can get it sent to them a page a day, literally. Nice. So that they only have that. Or if people want it so that they can consume it while doing other things, there's actually an audio thing where we will text you the audio every single morning so you can listen to it while you're brushing your teeth or making your coffee or whatever else that you have to do so that you continue to consume what you need to do, that multivitamin, every single day.
That is fantastic, Joe. I absolutely love it. So tell us where our listeners can find you.
Probably on my treadmill. I was going to say the bar, but that might come across poorly.
Yeah, maybe more in digital terms.
So I'm on Twitter. Every single day I actually tweet out the quote of the day and the other quotes throughout the day. Fantastic. So that's at EDE with Joe. EDE being Everyday Excellence. Awesome. They can go to the website, which is everyday-excellence.com. And there's a lot of resources there. Plus, they can find me on your podcast.
Yay. That's great. And we will have all those links available. And then we'll have that code for Everyday Excellence. And you can get a copy at a discounted rate and then give to the Set Me Free Project to prevent human trafficking at the exact same time. So what could be better than that?
It's a beautiful thing. Everybody wins.
It really is. Anything else you would like to share?
I actually wanted to reveal one of the Jedi mind tricks that I was using.
Oh,
earlier,
okay.
Where I got you to laugh multiple times.
Yes. Well,
and that's funny. Done for a couple of reasons.
Okay.
One, There's something called mirror neurons
Hmm.
in the human brain. So if we see somebody smiling, it is our natural reaction to smile back.
Yeah.
Okay. And that produces serotonin and dopamine, and it actually decreases the cortisol levels, which reduce your stress. Some of the side effects of that is that you're more intelligent for the approximately 10 minutes after you laugh, and you're more creative. Creativity helps lead to resilience.
Oh,
So
that's
one of the
great.
things you noticed, I used humor to uh, deflect at times or to
Hmm.
educate and create insight. And so what this does is hopefully people, when they've been listening to this, have been able to glean a little bit more from it. It's
Yes.
helped them cleanse their system a little bit. It has basically aided them in being better in a lot of different ways. And so if you can get somebody else to smile, do so. And the most important person to get to smile is yourself. And then
Hmm.
you will be much more resilient.
Oh, that is fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Joe, for being on the podcast. I really appreciate you. And thank you so much for being with us, listeners. And we will see you next time on Being Resilient.